Welcome back, boxing fans. So the day after the big event, and obviously, as you can see, this nonstop back and forth within YouTube between primarily Black American content creators and fanboys, right? We saw this with Spence and Bud Crawford, people pointing fingers at non-Black channels crying racism, yet most of the hate towards Spence and Crawford was coming from other Black content creators. Now, I've talked about this and pointed out that right now we're getting the same situation on YouTube between Tank Davis fans and Devin Haney fans. And also, of course, Tank Davis fans and Shakur Stevenson fans. I mean, that's kind of Spence and Bud Crawford spinoff. The fact that Devin Haney's in the mix, this is mostly an LDBC thing. The LDBC has grabbed onto Devin Haney. And of course, you have channels like this, Knockout Boxing, 8867, that are PBC dick riding Tank Davis fans. So there's the two groups. So, of course, the pro Tank Davis groups, they're reveling in Devin Haney's defeat, really more so than a lot of other people, because they have an axe to grind because of a lot of the back and forth we've seen. We know that BFTB and obviously Knockout Boxing, they're cool. And you know these dudes are probably talking to get the back and forth, the banter going, to create controversy between the two of them, to get people to jump on and give them content to create, to get more views and more traffic on the channels. That's what it is, right? If nothing more. So it's not that I feel this is really for the channels based on hate and negativity. They're just using it to make money from the topic. And of course, then you have ignorant, uneducated, young, casual fans that just eat that shit up because they look for controversy wherever they can find it. Now you see him talking about his video, Javante Tank Davis fans, and Tank Davis and his fans are cooking Devin Haney and his fans. Yeah, as you know they would. If Ryan Garcia would have went out there and if Devin Haney would have went out there and knocked out Ryan Garcia in 3 rounds, they would be throwing the same shit towards Tank Davis and his fans. So it's tit for tat. What's good for you is good for them. But let's just listen to a minute of this because I'm just curious where he's going with it.
Maybe you'll understand by the time this video is over, man, and understand that this shit comes with this shit that we do. Let's smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, share the video. Catch me live Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday night at 7:30. I'm also live every Sunday morning with the same OG KQK. Mainly why Tank Davis fans are cooking Devin Haney and cooking Devin Haney fans right now. And hopefully this shit will make sense to you. So, for Tank Davis, bro, and the reason why he cooking Devin Haney and going in on is because that's his eye, bro. That's the motherfucker that has denigrated his name the most. That's the person that has tried to dim his light the most. And so,
see, that's the problem I have with him. This is the same bullshit he was talking about, the whole Bud Crawford, Errol Spence situation. Nobody was putting out more negativity towards Bud Crawford than this guy. But yet he gets on his soapbox and moans and groans when people are crapping on Errol Spence. And now it's the same. If people are holding Tank Davis to higher expectations than Devin Haney, it's because the dude's almost 5 fucking years older, been in the game longer, been talked about as a pound for pound fighter longer. These dudes literally were talking about him being the face of fucking boxing above Canelo Alvarez. A few people recently, John Boxing, talked about Devin Haney being face of boxing. Those dudes are just mental because nobody thinks Devin Haney is the fucking face of boxing. Come on, let's be honest. But that's the expectations you get. The same way people ride and criticize Canelo Alvarez because he's king of the castle is the same way people are going to fucking ride on Tank Davis because for Americans, and specifically Black Americans, he's the king of their castle, right? Because they don't ride with Canelo. So you have to expect that he's going to come under more scrutiny than obviously Devin Haney, justifiably so. Devin Haney, in a shorter period of time, has done more than him, became an undisputed champion. This dude dick rides fucking Tank Davis, but that guy has never unified a fucking title in any weight division. How serious are you about the sport of boxing when you don't even fight other champions in your weight class? You got Bud Crawford, Devin Haney, Charlo, Usyk, Anui, Canelo, better be than Bivol. Dudes literally fighting to become undisputed, to become the king of their class. Tank Davis has never really been the king outside of pay-per-view numbers, right? Lots of which have been mostly fabricated. The only pay-per-view he really did that was super successful was the Ryan Garcia pay-per-view. And if Devin Haney Ryan Garcia pay-per-view does fucking anywhere close to 1 million, what does that say about Tank Davis' star status? That it's manufactured, that it's not true, right? They're using him and milking him in low-level fucking fights the same way they did with Floyd Mayweather a lot in his career as a cash cow to fill their pockets full of money. But they're not fighting for legacy. They're not putting him in the fights that fans want. And when you say that to this guy, then he fucking projects that it's everyone else's fault. They clout chase off Tank, but none of them want to fight him. Jesus fucking Christ, dude. Tank Davis literally docked fucking Lomachenko for years. Duck Lomachenko. Didn't fight Teo. Didn't fight Haney, right? Haney literally got money offer from Saudi Arabia, and Tank Davis poo-pooed on that fucking deal. And what this video is obviously talking about is the current situation between Tank Davis and Shakur. And now, of course, Tank Davis fans acting like, why would we fight Shakur? You're fighting fucking Frank Martin. You're fighting the dude that ducked Shakur instead of the fucking guy that was ducked, the guy that's a champion. So instead of fighting for unification against Shakur Stevenson, currently a 3-weight world champion, a silver medal Olympian, and a pound-for-pound top 10 fighter, you're fighting a 30-year-old fucking prospect who's never fucking beat a top 10 opponent. But yet people are overly critical to Tank Davis. And John Boxing is going to say, oh, I'm hating black boxers. No, everything I'm saying is completely fucking honest and fair. The LDBC are saying the same thing right now about Tank Davis. They're only saying that, though, to fucking build up and dick ride Devin Haney. I'm saying it because it's fucking true. Honest. Right? The expectations people have for Tank Davis is because we want to see him fight the best fighters around his weight class. No one's asking him to jump up to 154 pounds and fight Bud Crawford. Not like Tank Davis fans are asking Anui to jump up to 135 to fight Tank, right? This is the mentality of people. Like, he don't need to fight Anui. He needs to fight dudes fucking around his weight class. Lomachenko, Muratalla, Cepeda, Shakur, Teo, Haney, right? Those are the big fights for him. Those are the legacy fights that are there for his career. And right now, he would rather have this back and forth type of shit going on and on with regards to Shakur Stevenson. But it's like, dude, man. Like, Shakur is easily one of the best fighters in boxing. Stylistically, it's a tough fight. A tough fight. No easy work, man. Like, if you can beat Shakur Stevenson, you're making a huge statement, right? And that's all people are asking for, to see you fight the best. Nobody's hating on you fighting Frank Martin. This is the first Black American guy you fought. So nice, good. You're doing something different. It's not another fucking Latino guy who's flat-footed and comes forward. It's a guy that has a little bit more speed and a little bit more style and footwork to him. So we'll see what Frank Martin can do against you. But it's this stuff. Like he says it right there. Civil war. That tells you everything you need to know. When people are blaming every non-Black YouTuber for being a racist, the truth is, and this is true to the States as well, in America, who's killing Black people? Black people, right? Not to get off on tangent, but this is the same thing with regards to boxing. Who's mostly hating on Black fighters? Black boxing fans, right? But yet someone wants to create this racial fucking diatribe consistently. And we've had to deal with it ever since Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao, because Floyd Mayweather fans were bitches, right? That's the problem. They had to make everything about race. And then it fucking moved to where we are now, where things are ridiculous, literally ridiculous. If you're a boxing fan, you appreciate the skills of all the fighters I just mentioned. You may have different ones out of them who are your favorite. Out of all the guys I mentioned, I'm giving Tank Davis the hardest time because he's 30 fucking years old and he's yet to do anything that we want him to do. But yet, out of all of them, Tank Davis is my favorite fighter to watch. I'd rather watch Tank than fucking Tio, Devin, Shakur, not Loma. Loma I'd rather watch, but Loma's also almost fucking retired. So, uh, and then obviously you got a lot of young up and coming guys and other fighters. I said Tank Davis is one of the 10 most exciting fighters in boxing, but then I'm hating and I'm racist and I hate Tank Davis. Yet I have a video saying he's one of the 10 most exciting fighters in the sport. I don't know what you have to say to be complimentary to people, right? Now, if I praise Tank, it's because I'm hating Devin. If I'm praising Devin, it's because I'm hating Tank and his fans. I mean, I'm not doing that. You're doing it. Go look at Knockout Boxing's video. Look. He's the one claiming civil fucking war. There he is right there. Civil war. Boom, boom, boom. Right? And this is the same thing I've been saying recently because it's the same stuff we saw with Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence. And now it's just transferred to new fighters because Errol Spence got his ass beat up. And now, of course, Devin Haney got his ass beat up. So the whole back and forth between Shakur and Tank Davis is probably just going to escalate even more. But let's get to this. So there we go. It's the best fight in boxing, says Sean Porter. I mean, obviously, hold on. Let me plug my computer in. Sean Porter, like anyone, just has an opinion. You may have a different opinion than him. A lot of people right now think that Ryan Garcia, Teofimo Lopez, is one of the best fighters in boxing or best fights in boxing. A lot of people think Benavidez versus Canelo is one of the best fights in boxing. Many people think Bivol Beterbiev is one of the best fights in boxing. So there's lots of best fights in boxing. Depending on what you think and who you like, that's going to determine who you have on this list. But I can tell you, one of the biggest and best fights in boxing, and one of the fights that stylistically is a great matchup, is Shakur Stevenson versus Tank Davis. And I favor Tank Davis, but because Shakur has shown such sublime skills, I also feel that this just might be the fight to make him the next Floyd Mayweather, right? That pound for pound number one, a guy that went in there and took Tank Davis's weapons away and goes on to beat him by unanimous decision and really showcases the level to his skill set. And you wouldn't say that after the De Los Santos fight, but he said he was injured. So we have to accept that maybe that's true. And we'll see what happens moving forward in his career. But for me, a boxing fan, this is the best fight you can make at 135 pounds. I will say that. This is the best fight you can make at 135. I would easily spend $80 to $85 to watch this fight on pay-per-view. Luckily, I live in Asia, so it probably wouldn't cost me that much money. But this is a great fight. And this is a fight people should push for. But the problem is, this is a fight that right now is kind of at that level that we had Pacquiao versus Floyd, Spence versus Crawford, where right now is 2024, and easily we might have to wait till fucking 2029 before this fight's fucking happening. And at that time, I can guarantee you Shakur is not going to be at 135 any longer. And then you're going to have a whole new crew of top level fighters in this division, like Abdullah Mason and Keyshawn Davis, who also might be moved up by that time, and others. So it's not a fight that we want to fucking sit on and waste our time. I'm hoping now that the PBC is working with Saudi Arabia, this is the kind of fight they fund. So if you're out there, Turki Alishika, this is definitely the kind of fight you should make, because this is a legacy fight. This is Hearns Leonard. This is Leonard Duran. This is one of those fights, right? a historical great matchup between two of the best fighters in boxing today, and probably the two best fighters at 135 pounds. Obviously, I'm a Lomachenko fan, but at 37 years old, you have to say that he's probably not elite at the level that he once was. So you'd have to say that these guys are probably now a little above him. But you got to make the fights to really see if it's true. Let's move forward. So is this one of the best fights in boxing? Should it happen in 2024? As I just said, I definitely think it's one of the best fights in boxing, and it should happen in 2024 or no later than fucking early 2025. And I mean early 2025, like February, March. No fucking later. No later. But leave in the comment section below what you think. And if this isn't a fight you think is the best at lightweight, tell me which one is. Who would you rather see Shakur fight? Or who would you rather see Tank Davis fight? I know people are going to say, oh, Shakur should be fighting Lomachenko. Sure. That's a no-brainer because they're both with ESPN Top Rank. But at this point, nobody thinks that a Lomachenko-Shakur fight is bigger than a Tank Davis-Shakur fight. It's the biggest fight you can do at the weight. Even if Lomachenko beats Kambosos and Navarrete to become a two-belt unified champion, which obviously then the Shakur fight with Loma is probably going to happen in 2024. And for sure, it's probably going to happen before Tank Davis. But it's still not bigger. So here we go. The Boxing Voice was talking about Tank Davis, Shakur, and what they have currently going on with the whole Twitter war. And see, this is the thing. This is not the first time Tank Davis has had Twitter wars. Obviously, the whole Ryan Garcia situation that we had to see for years. Relax. It's not a ghost. It's just the wind. My door blew open, and now my dog's freaking out. Just let me close the door. Otherwise, she's going to think that our house is haunted. Chillax, baby. It's okay. It's okay. No ghost. Don't worry. Okay. But obviously, we saw Tank Davis going through this with Ryan Garcia. We've seen Tank Davis go through this with, obviously, Devin Haney. We saw him go through this now currently with Shakur. Noticeably, the absence. We didn't really see him go in too much on Lomachenko. What does that tell you? But let's move forward. So the Boxing Voice posted some of the back and forth on Twitter that they had. Example, Javante said, exactly, sir, you little bum ass there, and wait your turn. Wait your turn. The problem is when Javante Davis says, wait your turn, that means you're never going to get a chance. Because the only reason Ryan Garcia fight happened is because Ryan Garcia generated big money, as we saw, 1.2 million pay-per-view buys, and was willing to take a catch weight and a rehydration clause. I don't think Shakur is going to do that because at this time, obviously, Shakur is fighting at the same weight class as Tank Davis, so it's unnecessary. Obviously, for guys like Lopez and Haney, that might have been something that was necessary. But with Shakur, there's no excuses. There's no catch weights. There's no rehydration. Literally, there's nothing to get in the way of this outside of the promotional companies. Shakur said, wait my turn. Hope the fans catch on to what you're saying because I hear you loud and clear. Exactly. Yeah, he say, I'm ducking you, son. Wait your turn, which means you ain't never getting the fight. And history shows you this is true. Sorry, I accidentally deleted some video. You can see there's white spaces. There was other tweets there, but somehow I deleted them by accident. But let's see here. So who have you fought? That's Javante Tank Davis's explanation. Who have you fought? Who have you fought? Shakur Stevenson has become a legitimate three-weight world champion. Yet he's much younger, 26 years old, than Tank Davis, who is now a two-weight world champion because he literally was elevated by the WBA. He never beat someone to become a 135-pound world champion. He was elevated because Devin Haney moved up in weight, right? And literally the WBA should have mandated Tank Davis versus Devin Haney. See, that would have solved all these problems, right? Because what a bitch Tank Davis would have looked like if the WBA mandated that fight and then Tank Davis dropped his regular title to not make the fight. Kind of like what we saw Devin Haney do to duck Shakur Stevenson, WBC. Literally, Shakur went to the WBC and got himself mandated as Devin Haney's mandatory. And Devin Haney dropped his title to move to 140. Right? That's literally what happened. People crapped all over Lomachenko for being elevated at 135, and Devin Haney was given the baby belt, basically. And people went on for years criticizing and chastising Lomachenko. Yet Devin Haney just did literally what you were complaining about. He literally dropped the title to move away from a fight. Lomachenko was elevated and then had a unification fight. Right? He did not need to fight his mandatory because unification trumps mandatory. It always has, it always fucking will for anyone that knows the sport. But let's go here. What does Shakur say? He says, say, and if that sparring was a fight, I would have won, and that's facts since you keep speaking on a punch you landed. 3-division champ, unified at 130, held the Ring Magazine belt. You had the one belt your whole career and you are pushing 30, my guy. You not fooling me, little brah. What Shakur says ain't wrong, right? And sometimes Shakur does exaggerate and speak out of turn, like he was criticizing Navarrete and Lomachenko. But yet, Navarrete and Lomachenko is a big fight. They don't necessarily need Shakur. They could fight each other in a big fight. And then the winner can face Shakur afterwards, right? So instead of just getting one big fight, potentially you can get 2 big fights. So for them, it makes more sense to do what they're doing. Obviously for Shakur, he wants big fights. So he's calling out everyone, which makes sense for him. But everybody's career is different where they are and what they're looking for. If you could fight Navarrete or you could fight Shakur, you're not going to make more money necessarily from fighting one over the other. Actually, you may make less money fighting Shakur than you would fighting Navarrete if you were Lomachenko. Yet, stylistically, Navarrete is easier work. He's also more accomplished because, he's going to be a 4-weight world champion, something that Shakur Stevenson isn't. He's a 3-weight world champion. So you'd be beating a 4-weight world champion in the process, which is pretty great. And he's also Mexican, which means you're going to get a lot of Mexican-American attraction to the fight, which means that if it goes pay-per-view, you're probably going to generate and sell more. And then you beat him, and then you go fight Shakur, and you just leverage off of that. So as far as Shakur and Tank, I mean, they can go in different directions. Apparently, Tank Davis just signed a new 6-fight deal with the PBC. I don't know if it's come out and what the reality of the situation is, but that just means 6 more fights against nondescript opponents that we aren't really looking forward to. If you currently look at the PBC and the stable of fighters that they have, and you try to figure out who Tank Davis is going to fight next, it's really difficult to come up with 6 fighters. So you'd hope some of those fights are going to be against the big name fighters within his division. But at this point, who knows if that's true or not? You got to wait and see, right? People thought David Benavidez was part of Canelo's 3-fight deal with the PBC, but it wasn't. So here's some more. According to Boxing, the PBC's attempt to sabotage Terence Crawford. Oh, see, I don't even know how I put that in. That's the problem when you put things on, but it's so small you can't even see it. Artman, I used to watch Fannin a while ago, but he used to be a fan of Devin until Bill and him got into it. And he really let his hate for Bill cloud his judgment. So you can see Artman is obviously a Devin Haney fan. Fannin is what I'm saying. He's a Tank Davis fan. Literally, he will make video after video pushing Tank Davis, and everything he says is critical of Devin Haney, whereas Artman is the opposite. He is consistently fanboying for Devin Haney and criticizing, obviously, Tank Davis. This is not a problem on YouTube, but this is something you consistently see, not just on YouTube, but also on X, probably X more than anywhere. Here we go. Charlo is old news. I don't know why that's there. Same little bitch that says he's the face of boxing, never fought Haney or Lomachenko or Shakur, and he making fights for Canelo. You can't make this shit up. Same little bitch that said he's the face of boxing. So obviously, inevitable D Block is a LDBC guy, and obviously a Devin Haney fan, right? Because he's saying he never fought Haney, never fought Loma, never fought Shakur, but yet he wants to tell Canelo what to do. And that's ironic because we see this from a lot of Tank Davis fans. They talk about how Tank Davis is the face of boxing and they criticize Canelo Alvarez consistently. Now they're criticizing him because he's not fighting David Benavidez, even though he's fighting a legitimate opponent in Jaime Munguia, more legitimate than fucking Frank Martin. Jaime Munguia was a world champion and is younger currently than Frank Martin, who's never been a champion, right? And he's coming off of a significant win against John Ryder. Frank Martin's coming off of a duck of Shakur Stevenson and a questionable win against an unknown German fighter that nobody had ever heard of before, right? So it's funny how fans will ignore what their fighter is doing, but then hop on criticism towards other fighters. I'm not below no fucking buddy. Tell Charlo to fight Benavidez or Canelo to fight Benavidez June 22nd, bitch. Well, sorry, Tank, you are below Canelo Alvarez. And that's not criticism. It's just time and place, right? That's what it is. Time and place. Canelo been around longer. He fought bigger names. He fought Floyd Mayweather. You've never even fucking got close to an opponent at the level of Floyd Mayweather. Sure, he lost to Floyd, but he fought Floyd, right? That's the difference between a lot of these guys that spend so much time on social media clapping back at one another. Yet when you look at their resumes, it ain't that great. People will always talk about how the best name on Tank's resume is Petraza. Petraza, who just got his ass destroyed by Keyshawn Davis. And obviously, that's a much older version and shop-worn version of Petraza. But if you look at Petraza's resume, what he's most known for is getting beat by elite fighters. So Tank Davis' best name on his resume is a guy that's known for being beat. Then you got Leo Santa Cruz, which was literally fighting in his fourth weight division. So he's a guy that never really fought at that weight division, never had power in lower weight divisions. Now he's fighting in a bigger weight division. And surprise, surprise, he was winning the fight, but eventually he got starched because he was fighting a bigger guy with power, just the way we knew he would. Gamboa was 39 years old, right? And then after that, Ryan Garcia has never been a champ. Should be a champ now, but he blew that because he was playing a whole different game. I understand Tank Davis's resume is not bad, but when you look at Tank Davis's resume or any of these guys on social media that are back and forth constantly capping off of one another, their resumes don't come fucking close to Canelo Alvarez. So you got to scratch your head and ask yourself, how the fuck are these guys and their fans criticizing Canelo Alvarez? Because he's not fighting David Benavidez? Who the fuck is David Benavidez? Like, that's a question I ask again. That's like Canelo says, what the fuck has David Benavidez done? Like, me beating David Benavidez is probably not even the 10th best win on my resume. Truthfully, it's probably not even a top 10 win on Canelo Alvarez's resume. Or if it is, it's the bottom fucking level. Or let's just say, one of the top 10 fights on his resume. It's definitely not one of the top 10 fights on his resume. And this doesn't diminish and criticize Benavidez. It's just he was moved like Tank Davis. Weak. Avoiding top fights to manufacture his career by looking good against subpar competition. And sure, this is something that's normal in boxing. But at the end of the day, if you continue to do this, when you do step up, like Demetrius Andrade, you end up fucking being exposed in the worst way possible. Humiliated because of how unprepared you are for that level, right? Demetrius Andrade was the perfect example of that. This was a guy people literally thought was a super fucking great fighter, at 154, 160, and then 168. Yet he never fought a world champion. And when he did, David Benavidez, he got fucking humiliated. Humiliated. So here's Shakur. Who is the top 235 pounders? Why wouldn't we be fighting this year? If you got 6 or 7 fight deal, why can't I be first on your list since I'm everything you say I am? Meaning that he's shit, he's garbage, he hasn't fought anyone, right? So that's what he says is true. If I'm nothing special, you might as well just fucking beat my ass, take my WBC title fucking right away. And he ain't wrong. Because the truth is, if you signed a 6-fight deal, right, with the PBC, who the fuck are you going to fight? Like, let's be completely honest. Who are you going to fight? Right here on my little mini, I have my boxing scene. So let's just go through boxing scene and let's see if we can come out with 6 fighters that he can fight. And we will just assume the Frank Martin fight is the #1 fight on his 6-fight deal, just to make things simple. So that way we only need to find 5 other fighters, right? And obviously, the way things have been going, you expect that most of this is going to be in-house PBC fights, right? Probably. So Tank Davis is obviously currently the WBA super champion. Not beaten anyone, but elevated. Frank Martin is ranked #2 behind William Zepeda. So he's not even being forced to fight the #1 ranked fighter. And he didn't fight the regular champion because he was the regular champion. So probably what they're going to do is they're going to allow William Zepeda to fight a guy like Floyd Schofield or somebody else, maybe Jose Valenzuela, another PBC fighter, but a lower level guy, to try to fight for that vacant WBA regular title, right? And if Valenzuela beats Zepeda, now they don't have to worry about him. They don't have to deal with Golden Boy and DAZN. And now Valenzuela, an in-house PBC fighter, is the WBA regular champion. So the WBA can mandate that fight because we're trying to eliminate titles. And so now you fight Frank Martin, who's #2. Then you fight Jose Valenzuela, who is currently #5. And really, Valenzuela, De Los Santos are fighting on the undercard. So if De Los Santos wins, then you put him in the same situation. So it's either Valenzuela or De Los Santos, another in-house PBC opponent, right? So let's just say Valenzuela, because I predicted he's going to win the rematch. So you got Frank Martin, you got Valenzuela. Muratalla, he's probably going to be more directed towards Shakur Stevenson, because they're both top-ranked fighters, and he is currently ranked #2 by the WBC. Right? Artem Hanturyunyan is currently ranked #6, even though he's coming off of a loss by the WBC. He's a guy that obviously Frank Martin just fought. I don't know what his affiliation with the PBC is. I think currently his next fight is going to be against who? Is Shakur going to fight him? I think Shakur might be fighting him, which is also funny. Instead of facing Zepeda, who's #1, Muratalla is #2, Keyshawn Davis obviously ain't going to fight him, who's #3. You're going to fight Artem Hadjian, who's #6. Andy Cruz is below him at #7. So there's some good opponents you could fight. The guy coming off of a loss, probably not the best opponent, but okay. Obviously, Navarrete is going to be fighting Branchek. So at that weight class, you got the same fighters. Sam Noakes got a big fight, so he's going to move up in the WBO rankings if he wins. Lomachenko's fighting Kambosos. So they may be forced to fight William Zepeda, who's #1 currently, depending on what William Zepeda does. So, they may be forced to fight William Zepeda in the next fight. So Lomachenko, if he does get a unification fight with Navarrete, unification trumps mandatory. But if he doesn't get a Navarrete fight, then he's probably going to be fighting Zepeda. So literally Lomachenko's next 2 fights are better than Shakur and better than Tank Davis. Because if you got to fight Kambosos and then potentially Zepeda or potentially Navarrete, That's way better than what these guys are going to do, probably. If Shakur fights De Los Santos and then fights fucking Hart to Union, I mean, neither one of those fighters is anybody that anyone's intrigued by or interested in. And as far as Tank, we just said there's two fights so far: Frank Martin and the winner of De Los Santos and Valenzuela. Outside of that, I don't even see another PBC fighter in any of the rankings that potentially could be in that position. When you look at 130, because we know Tank Davis and the PBC are not above pulling someone up in weight, I don't even know who you can fight there because they didn't re-sign Oshaki Foster. So he's part of Top Rank. So he's not PBC. Lamont Roach, I'm not sure who Lamont Roach is currently with as far as promotional company. What I did hear, and this is kind of crazy, is that now currently number 6th ranked fighter, Mark Magsaya, who is ranked number 6 by the WBC and number 8 by the IBF at 130 pounds, right? So potentially Mark Magsaya might be a Tank Davis opponent, a guy coming up from 130 to 135. And I don't know if they're going to try to make Mark Magsaya fight Lamont Roach or who, because when you look at the rankings, he's not even ranked by the WBA. He's ranked number 8, so he could maybe get a Joe Cordina fight. He's ranked number 10 by the WBO, so he could fight for that vacant title that Oscar Valdez is in position for, even though I think Albert Bell is in position. Andre Cortez is right there as well. Lee Wood obviously is a big fight if they do that in the UK. And for Valdez at this point, that might be something he's interested in. So I don't know what Magsaya is going to have to do to get a title. But literally, he'd have to win a title at 130 for that fight to at least resonate with boxing fans. So you could say, oh, Mark Magsaya, 2-weight world champion, is coming up to challenge Gervonta Tank Davis for his WBA super title to try to become a 3-weight world champion. And at that point, okay, you at least got some intrigue in that fight. So Frank Martin, the winner of De Los Santos Valenzuela, Mark Magsaya. And that's from 130 to 135 pounds. And I'm looking at fighters that are inside the PBC. So then we go up to, of course, 140, and the obvious opponent there is Isaac Cruz, right? That was a fight people really expected. Now Tank Davis could go up to 140, fight a guy who's really smaller than him. So you're going up to a bigger division, but you're not fighting a bigger opponent. And you fight him at 140. Now you can become a legitimate 3-weight world champion, tying what Shakur Stevenson already did. So there's 4 fights that could be on your deal. Frank Martin, the winner of De Los Santos, Valenzuela, Mark Magsaya, and of course, Isaac Cruz. And then I don't know who else. You're going to talk about guys like, what's his face? Who's the brothers? Come on. Oh, Gary Russell. Gary Russell at 140? We know Tank Davis doesn't want to fight legitimate 140-pound fighters. Gary Russell's a legitimate 140-pound fighter. Hits hard, natural at that weight. So he doesn't have a world title currently. So what's the push for him to take that fight? But that could potentially be an opponent depending on what happens over the next while. But I hear actually Gary Russell might go over to the zone, right? So the truth is there's not a lot of fights for Tank Davis that are pay-per-view, that resonate with boxing fans, that people would be interested in, and that people are calling for. The Frank Martin fight, as I said, it's a good fight, solid fight. It's not a big pay-per-view fight, but it's a good fight, even though legitimately Frank Martin has never fought a top fighter at 140 pounds, 135 pounds. Valenzuela and De Los Santos, the winner of that, obviously that's significant. But the biggest selling would be Valenzuela because his Mexican heritage, you could use that to push a pay-per-view, especially if he destroys De Los Santos in impressive fashion. Then that fight is going to be more significant, kind of like Munguia beating John Ryder. Magsaya is going to have to do something at 130 that's impressive. and I can't see that happening because he ain't impressive. For that fight to be resonating, obviously Isaac Cruz, that would be the most likely fight to have next, because at this point, that is the biggest fight available to him within the PBC. This is a world champion. This is a chance for him to become a world champion, to get revenge and prove he could beat Cruz more impressively than the first fight, which went the distance. And Cruz had a lot of success against Tank Davis, right? But outside of that, if you're not going to fight Lomachenko, Zepeda, Muritala, Shakur Stevenson, Teofimo Lopez, Devin Haney, then who the fuck are you going to fight? That's really going to be a fight that fans are asking for. And people say I'm hating on Tank. I'm not hating on Tank. I'm just agreeing with Shakur in this comment. For the both of them, this is one of the biggest fights that can be made in boxing. And legacy-wise, this shit resonates with boxing fans. Resonates. You might say it doesn't resonate with casual fans, but if you market it and push it properly, it should. Shakur is an Olympic silver medalist, a 3-weight world champion, right? Nobody else on Tank Davis' resume has those kind of accolades. None. Nobody. And if Tank Davis is truly a star, then an opponent like this is truly a fight worth watching for everybody. These guys can continue to go back and forth on social media, go at each other on X in a move to build up the fight, build interest. But I don't know if that really builds up interest. It'd make more interest if Shakur Stevenson walked up to Tank Davis post-fight in the Frank Martin fight and said, "You fought the guy that fucking ducked me, son. Fight me. Unification. Let's do it." That kind of thing may resonate, may get casual fans interested in this fight. And if obviously Shakur looks impressive in his next fight, unlike his last fight, that would not help or not hurt either. And I'm not saying this fight has to happen next, but think about these two fighters. What can they do next? What's bigger? What's better? I mean, Tank Davis now, they're trying to get a rematch to Ryan Garcia. Obviously, that's a big fight, but at this point, Ryan Garcia doesn't need Tank Davis, right? He's literally got a rematch with Devin, which would be fucking way bigger than the first one. A Teofimo Lopez fight, which fucking is the fight I want to happen. Please, God. Rolly Romero fight, even though Rolly coming off an ass whooping, it might not sell that much now. Or potentially moving up and taking on a Mario Barros or a Conor Benn in the UK. Like, Ryan Garcia is at the point right now with his social media credit that him going to the UK would be a very big and very significant fight, right? It's the kind of fight that's going to grab tons of attention from fans, tons of attention, and makes a lot of sense. What happened? There we go. So a Conor Benn, Ryan Garcia fight. Conor Benn's also limited skill-wise and relies on power. So that fight could be the new version of McKellen and Nigel Benn, right? A real fucking exciting back and forth. Both dudes getting dropped, right? Blood and guts matchup. That's what it could be, right? I know many American fans will downplay that and discredit it, but the reality is that's a huge fight. And especially if he goes to the UK, you could put that fight in the O2 Arena, sell that shit out, and Ryan Garcia's status as one of the biggest people in boxing now is just going to be elevated, because now it's just not Americans. It's also the UK and more. The UK, the world, right? And I'm not a guy jumping on this Ryan Garcia bandwagon. Anything about this whole promotion, all it did really is just sour me on Ryan Garcia. I think he's a fucking dick, a douche. Whether it's real or not, The whole fake religious shit, the whole mental health issue, the whole I'm trying to save the kids thing, the whole fucking Illuminati thing. Nobody wants to listen to a fucking stupid kid that don't know shit fucking from anything going on and on about these topics. Nobody. You're a boxer, box. Keep all the rest of this shit out of here. We don't care. We don't want to listen to it. You're just fucking, it just becomes hard to listen to, right? And takes away any joy that a big fight of this magnitude has. But the question is, I like Shakur, I like Tank Davis, and I think this is a great matchup. The same way I wanted to see uh, Bud Crawford versus Errol Spence, and understanding the true significance of that fight. This is the same. This is a significant fight. It's a fight that I hope happens soon. But this back and forth banter between the two of them, this is the same old cap that we've seen constantly. Yet you're going to have channels like this.
Of course, he's gonna be happy that Devin Haney lost, bro. Like, imagine somebody taking your.
Why is Tank Davis going to be happy? He could have potentially made tens of millions of dollars funded by Saudi Arabia to fight Devin Haney. But now that opportunity is gone. But of course, he's going to be happy. Why is he going to be happy? He didn't beat Devin Haney. Ryan Garcia did. You don't take victories from other people beating people. That's not your victory. 25 years down, when people look at your resume, there's no fucking unbeaten Devin Haney on your resume. No. They look at your resume and we're still going to say, no Lopez, no Haney, no Shakur, no Lomachenko. The only guy he fought was a fucking social media fucking hyped up fighter. That's going to be his legacy. I mean, you can hate on Shakur. You may not like Shakur. People don't. People are all over hating on him, specifically Tank Davis fans. And now, of course, Devin Haney fans. Everybody hates fucking anyone attached to Bud Crawford for obvious reasons. But at least he wants the big fights. The question is, why don't you, Tank? And your fans, why don't they? Leave your comments below. Thanks for watching, everyone. I appreciate you guys jumping on. Remember to like, subscribe, and share. I appreciate it. And I will see you next time here on Sean Unboxing. Thanks for jumping in. Don't forget to leave your comments in the comment section below. I will read all of them and comment to pertinent ones. And of course, you probably will get a lot of back and forth from other people on the channel as well. Remember to jump on my live tomorrow. We will be talking about this weekend's matchups and what's happening the next weekend coming up soon.